What's going on, guys? Welcome to another video here on the channel. We're back on the wrestling channel, and we're still doing the TGC Summer Anniversary Series here in 2026. And today, it's going to be another Original Universe reactions. Well, kind of. I'm going to try something different like I talked about at the end of the last episode. But today, we're going to be talking about SmackDown's June Week 2 episode. And I've gone through, rewatched the episode myself, and I've taken notes about the episode and everything that I want to talk about. So right away, this episode of SmackDown, I had open up. Now, mind you, this was recorded in 2016, a decade ago. So, just bear with me on some of these things. But I had the episode actually open up with an IRL segment with my acne-filled teenage face on screen talking about, well, addressing the actions of Kevin Owens and Sami Zayn at Extreme Rules. And the only way, and it's really funny because the only way you would know what happened there, because, I lost the footage of Extreme Rules. I never uploaded it, lost that footage. It was a whole thing. We've talked about it before in the series. The other episodes of the reaction series are obviously playlists in the description. You can check those out for more of my thoughts there. But the only way you would know what Kevin and Sami did at Extreme Rules is if you saw that little bit of what they did during the promo, like the video package I did in the previous SmackDown with the Bray versus Bryan Steel Cage World Heavyweight title match. But yeah, so they show up. Sami makes his debut. Kevin, after losing a couple of matches on SmackDown, teams up with his best friend. They show up at Extreme Rules, attack Bray, causing the world title match to not happen. That's the gist of it. So I addressed that in an IRL segment at the start of the show, announcing that, if Kevin and Sami want to interfere in my scheduled matches, ruin my scheduled matches, saying that they're deserving of World Heavyweight title opportunities, you know what? Fine. You want the title shot so badly, well, guess what? Sami, you're going to face SmackDown's newest superstar, Dean Ambrose, and Kevin, you're going to face The Undertaker. If you win, then you can get a world title shot down the road. That's the gist of it. And so right away, it made me think, okay, so why Ambrose, right? Why Mox? Because Mox had done nothing but lose over on Raw. He was like 0-4, 0-5, something like that. He had lost a bunch of matches before moving over to SmackDown. And I was putting him over so hard in the move over to SmackDown, and it's just wild to me. Like, what were we doing here, More specifically, what was I doing here? Because, Tyson had no say over SmackDown at this point, right? But, yeah, I don't know. It was super weird. But nonetheless, that happened. That was the thing. And Owens and Taker, I guess, is fine, because, at least Kevin had shown up. And, Taker is he's The Undertaker. He's got a big enough name regardless of what you do with him, and he hadn't been on SmackDown, but whatever, yeah, he's The Undertaker, so, that's fine, I guess. But, yeah, I don't know. That was how the show opened up. And, I'm not opposed to, the idea, horribly executed. I should not have done, some random-ass IRL segment for this. Completely takes the viewer out of it. And, yeah, there's just some other things I would question, but that happened there. But then I go through the match card, obviously. So we have Sami Zayn versus Dean Ambrose and Kevin Owens versus The Undertaker. But then we also have Sheamus versus the Intercontinental Champion Ryback, non-title. And that's following up from the previous week where Sheamus and his new tag partner Batista took on Ryback the previous week and lost. So Sheamus getting a match here this week. Neville Styles, who are the number one contender, both of them are, due to the stupid match stipulation on the Go Home episode of SmackDown to Extreme Rules. Talked about that plenty of times. But due to that stupid stipulation, they are both the number one contender for the world title at the same time. They are facing Daniel Bryan in a triple threat match. Triple threat elimination match. Non-title here, but yeah. And then I debuted a new title, the TV title, which I said has 24/7 rules. And surprisingly, the TV title would both stick around and keep its 24/7 rules. Kind of. We'll talk about that later. For the most part, both those statements are true. Whereas that women's title I brought over on SmackDown disappeared. It ignored that was ever a thing, genuinely. But the TV title match to crown the first champion, main event, was Jericho versus Curtis Axel. And Curtis, it's Chris Jericho. He had done a little bit. He'd got away over Tyler Breeze, who challenged for the Intercontinental title. And then Curtis Axel had just won a Fatal 4-Way on Saturday Night's Main Event, Episode 1. So, yeah, that's where that came from. And the card itself, I don't really have a problem with. I think it's totally fine. I get what Past Me was going for. It's just the things surrounding it that I don't love. But I did make a point of saying, we're going to show off 3 matches on this episode. So you know what? That's fine. That was just the style I was doing at the time. But while that's happening, I announced that Randy Orton was moving over to Raw. Which just doesn't fucking happen. That does not happen in the series at all. It never happens. I say it numerous times, and Randy stays on SmackDown. He never actually moves over to Raw. And then my next point I wanted to bring up was during the match, the first match, I made a point on-screen text saying, should I disable the commentary from King and Cole? And yes, Past Me, you shouldn't have put that as text on screen, but yes, you should have turned off the voice lines, the commentary. I also say a line about Ambrose going into the first match. And the reason why I felt like that line was interesting is because, I made a point of saying that, Ambrose moving over to SmackDown, I felt that it could lead to great things, and he just needed, a change of scenery, is basically what I was getting at. And ultimately, spoiler a little bit for the future episodes, but that kind of would come true. He would have a lot more success on SmackDown. Which, low bar, but, still, he would. He would have a lot more success, genuinely, so the grass was greener for Ambrose, for Mox, on SmackDown. So I thought that commentary line from me was pretty interesting. And Ambrose, he got a win over Sami Zayn, and what I thought was interesting about that match, so not much to talk about actual in-match things, but I did think it was interesting that it was a actually pretty back-and-forth match, and Ambrose won with one finish, so I thought it was pretty cool. But then I also had to mention that Kevin Owens gets a huge win over The Undertaker, also with one finish. I also made a note of Neville and Styles are both the number one contender thanks to that stupid stipulation, blah, 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 talked about it before. And also, need to mention again, Neville didn't even compete in that match back in month 1. So why he was a part of that, I still don't know. But yeah, whatever. And then I was actually playing the Triple Threat Elimination match. I wanted to make a note of, I'm pretty sure that might have been the first time on camera that I intentionally delayed the kick out I was playing as Brian, and I kicked out at 2. So, I don't know, I intentionally delayed it, and I thought that was an interesting note. Maybe the first time I ever did that on camera. I also wanted to mention, Neville just straight up kicks out of the running knee at 1. He no-sells the hell out of it. So that was crazy. And then next note was Brian defeated both Neville and Styles in the match. And then my next note here is that I just casually announced a match for the pay-per-view. I don't think I had said anything about it. I think I just literally casually announced it on this episode of SmackDown. Intercontinental title, triple threat at Money in the Bank. Ryback defending against both Batista and Sheamus. So that was interesting. I don't know why I did that, but that was a thing. I mean, I know why. Okay, I do know why I did that, because the other part of that shitty stipulation involving Neville, Styles, Batista, and Sheamus from month 1, where I said the losers would still be rewarded. Yeah, that stipulation haunts me to this day, man. That was such a... Why? Why, past me? Why did you think that was a good idea, for fuck's sake? Anyway, moving on. My next note was that I decided to randomly just not show the debut of the TV title and simulated it, and the simulated winner was Curtis Axel, which was totally fine. Either guy could have won and I would have rolled with it. So yeah, the winner's fine, but the fact that I just decided to on a whim not show a title match was weird. Not the first time either, but just weird. And then once, I guess, the triple threat main event, which wasn't the scheduled main event, but that was the last thing you saw anyway, because I did the simulation for the TV title before then jumping back into the triple threat. But after the triple threat, I have the Wyatt family show up and attack Bryan, which, on paper, not a bad idea. This was horribly executed, like everything I did at the time. But on paper, not a bad idea. It shows that Bray's not done with Bryan, even despite having the steel cage match where he lost. And Bryan didn't even escape the cage. He just straight up beat Bray. I don't remember off the top of my head right now if it was pinfall or submission, but he just straight up beat Bray inside the cage. So yeah, Bray's not done with him. So again, I think it's a cool way to end the show, actually. And I said that with, again, text on screen, which I just started doing randomly at that point. I think in the previous episode, maybe the previous few. But I agree with Past Me's assessment there. I do think that was a cool way to end the show. Just, obviously now I want to execute the idea better. But I did have some questions as well, though. Because why are the Wyatt family back together? Number 1. 2, Harper was on Raw. Rowan had not had a match. Just wasn't really on a show. And I have contradictory text on the screen saying that Harper was on SmackDown and Rowan was on Raw, which just wasn't true. Past Me was lying. That was not true. So that was absolutely weird. Like I said, horribly executed, but overall, felt like a pretty cool way to end SmackDown, and I do agree with Past Me's assessment there. I liked the way it ended. But, yeah, I would just want to execute the idea better. But ultimately, that's really all I've got to talk about. That's all the notes that I had, everything I wanted to mention for that episode of SmackDown. I think it was a fine show, all in all. I like the card. I get what Past Me was doing. But like a lot of things that I did back in the day with this series, even if I like what I did, everything I would just want to and hope I could execute better now. So yeah. But like I said, that's really all I've got to mention. So that was another episode of the original Universe reactions, though we weren't really reacting very much. But still, I'll probably just... It's still in the episode playlist, it's still basically that. But yeah, that was it. Hope you enjoyed this episode. Hope you check out the others. Hope you check out all the other stuff in the summer series this year. And until next time, I'll see you later. Bye, guys.